God is no reason for quarrels or altercations. He does not ask about the nature of the Eternal One. He does not ask where he lives. He does not see him as being the obscure and impersonal cause of the universe. He simply calls him our Father. In moments of work and prayer, joy and suffering, he looks the Supreme Lord in the position of a loving and trusting Son. The Master sets the standard for the attitude we should have in God's presence. There is no pointless research. There is no urgent questioning. There is no inappropriate demanding. There is no irreverent defining. Whenever you pray, go into the secret chamber of your conscience and entrust yourself to God as our Heavenly Father. Be sincere and faithful. In our condition as needy children, let us give ourselves faithfully to Him. Do not ask if God is a generating focal point of worlds or if He is a force that radiates life. We do not yet have the intelligence capable of reflecting His grandeur, but we do have hearts that can sense His love. Therefore, let us seek our Father above all else, and God, our Father, will hear us. That's from Living Spring, in God's presence. And hopefully you're going to see the connection with the talk today. So let's take this minute and close our eyes and relax a little bit and start praying. Dear Lord, our Father, we feel very blessed for this opportunity to be here and study and reflect together as a fraternal group, hosted under this lovely entity that brings light to Canada, which is our Fraternity Spirit Society. We're also thankful for the blessings and light we get from our guide spirits that guide us to be here today with open minds and open hearts and connect with God, the beauty of its creation, and how the feeling of Him, understanding His presence in our life, would only bring us happiness. We ask, Lord, for good intuitions, good thoughts, and that these teachings coming from Jesus and our superior spirits that are friends to ours, we ask that these lessons would keep with us in our heart and guide us to good actions in every second of our life. So be it. Okay, good morning, everyone. It's a great opportunity to be here with you today. Truly blessed morning. It's very sunny out there. And before we start, I have two communications to you. We're going to have this talk from Cosme Massi on the 16th this month, from 7 to 9, talking about Kardec, mode of devotion and abnegation. I think Cosme Massi is the one who created Kardecpedia. So that's going to be very, very interesting to have him here in our house and learn from his experience and all his work around the work from Kardec. And also we have on the 20th the Italian lunch fundraising that will be in the San Andreas Community Center, the place that we typically do our gatherings. So I guess we do that every 2 months or so to do some fundraising, and then it's a great environment. Wish you could all be there. And now our talk today, let's see, maybe in the middle of the talk we do a circle. Let's see how it goes, and time permitting, we can do some activities later on. But then the title is like Moa said. Moa is not here, so that's quite weird title. Okay, so we're going to talk about time, space, the raindrops, and our feelings, and how these things connect to each other. And full disclosure, this is something that in our doctrinal, how does it called in English, Vitor?
Yeah,
doctrinal studies. We have a group of all the people that give the talks here. So it's 8 of us. We meet every Wednesday, and we do our studies. And in this case, we're studying the Genesis from Kardec, and we happen to be studying chapter number 5. Which talks about time, space, and the universe, and how things were created, and what are the acts of God in that sense. And we are having this lovely reflection last Wednesday, and I had this similar topic kind of prepared, but that meeting on Wednesday totally motivated me to put these things together and have this 40 minutes with you guys to talk about time, space, raindrops, and our feelings. Like I said, it's chapter number 5 from the Genesis. Oh, there it is. Okay, I'll give it here. So Genesis, one of the 5 books that Kardec compiled, and it's a chapter based on a measure from Galileo, a spirit called Galileo, called himself Galileo, so you imagine it was him. It is very interesting. Some facts that are disclosed there are a little bit outdated, of course, because it's like 160 years ago. So at the beginning, we're going to hear about numbers. And I want you to think about the molecules that are around you that will go into your lungs. So let's go 1, 2, and 3. Thinking about all these molecules reaching our lungs, going through our bloodstream, and then making us live. It has everything to do with this talk today. Because when you talk about the universe and how things were formed, we're going to eventually relate to how these things are important to us now in this second. So this oxygen we're breathing, and all these experiences we're having in life are related somewhat, to some extent, to the beginning of everything. So, about time. So, what do we know about time? We have had many talks here in this group, saying that like time, it's something that God is lending to us, and we have to make a good use of it. But how do we understand time? We understand things that are happening over a period of time. So it's very hard to define time, right? Something that has a beginning and an end. So according to science, we have everything started with the Big Bang. So the universe as we know today, as we can measure today, the scientists believe it started around 13.7 billion years ago. Billion years ago, right? Not yesterday, not last week, not 6,000 years ago, but 13.7 billion years ago. And the reason is that we have that number is that before that, there's no way we can measure anything that happened, right? So the theory that you have all this Big Bang, all the matter in the universe was concentrated in one very tiny small point, and which eventually collapsed, and then the universe started expanding. We can actually measure some radiation coming from the Big Bang. So when you turn on a TV, you see all this the gray and black dots when you don't have a channel synchronized. So that's a little bit of the cosmic background radiation. So that's kind of a sniff of the Big Bang that we still can measure. But before that, before 13.7, there is science path of life. And I do have many friends and people. We go to chapter 2 on Genesis, which you go through the attributes of God. And for those who participate in our studies on Monday, we did have a long stretch of 3 months or 4 months or so talking about the presence of God in our lives, and it was very interesting to relate the attributes of God, in this case eternity, to our lives, right? For God, everything is present, so I shouldn't be worried about things that happened in the past, not living in the past or living in the future, having preoccupation or post-occupation, but we should live in the eternal present. But then, in chapter number 2, Kardec goes and describes like this attribute of God based on logic, and it's very interesting to see here. So God, the divine nature, that's explaining the divine nature of God. God is eternal. That is to say, He has had no beginning and He'll have no end. If He had a commencement, He must have sprung from nothingness. Now, nothingness being nothing can produce nothing. Or if He could have been created by another being anterior to Himself, then this other being will be God. So if I have to understand God as this supreme intelligence of the universe, it must be eternal. It cannot be created from anything else. It cannot be created from nothing. If one could suppose of Him a commencement or an end, one would then be able to conceive a being having existed before or Him. So if God had a beginning and if God had an end, you would conceive that something happened before or after, and then that will be God. So I kind of explains draw from logic why God is eternal. But then it comes back to the sciencey part. So was God there at the Big Bang? Or how many Big Bangs there have happening in this history of the universe? So no one knows for sure, right? And science is very limited in that sense. But then now we know that, okay, so God was at the beginning of everything. But this beginning, as we know, as we can measure, it's 13.7 billion years old. And I just took 3 breaths that took us 30 seconds. How these things are related? How do I feel about it? And that comes the part of our feelings in the title. Next. Oh no, I don't have the background here. Oh, that's okay. Ooh. Okay, so let's imagine a picture here. So what we have was a photograph from the telescope Hubble. It's one of the most important telescopes that help us understand the universe. And one shot of it, we could see many bright spots, and one could think, oh, these are stars. And no, those are galaxies. So we had, like in one shot, hundreds or thousands of galaxies. And the point of that slide was, oh, I'm so sad we couldn't see it. What happened? Don't know. Well, that's okay. And the point of it is to see that we're living here today on Earth, right? But when we talk about this universe that is so old, there are many, many, many places that science can measure as of today, but we have no clue what's happening there, right? Don't we? So in that sense, there are probably more than 170 billion galaxies in the observable universe. So let's see, key. First thing is very important, observable universe, things that we can observe. So if you imagine a Big Bang as a point, things expanded, we went to one direction, our galaxy is here, we'll never be able to see what's in the other side, right? That's one thing, that's what we call observable universe. And the second thing is that 170 billion galaxy like ours, or bigger than ours. 170 billion galaxies. In our galaxy, what's the name of our galaxy? Milky Way. In Milky Way, we have 400 billion stars. The sun is only one of them. 400 billion stars. And there could be 500 million planets capable of supporting life in our galaxy. Why we're saying life? Life as science currently knows it, carbon-based life. So basically 500 million planets capable of sustaining water in oceans. They're not cool enough, they're not hot enough. So 500 million planets in the sweet spot to have life as we know it, right? The Spiritism comes to us and say like there's many different types of lives, right? But sticking to science now, say like 500 million planets in our galaxy that could support life as we have today. How long does the sun take to go around the Earth? How long does the Earth take to go around the sun? 1 year, 360 days. How long does the sun take to go around the galaxy? 225 million years. So the sun, to go around our galaxy, takes 225 million years. It's something huge, massive, right? The creation of God, it's something, it's mesmerizing. It's something that it's beautiful. And this whole exercise here is to tap into our feelings about it. If the universe as we know it's so long, how do I feel about it? If there's so many galaxies and planets, most of them undiscovered, how do I feel about it? Like I'm here now. That's what I am. I just took 3 deep breaths in this moment of time, in this moment in space. How can I understand myself as part of it? And then when you go to Jesus saying, like John reported at 14:2-3, my Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I'll come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. We understand Jesus as the governor of our system, right? He's the being that helped God in this creation, so we call him co-creator. Not we here, Renzo, or people here. We're coming from good spirits teaching us that. So Jesus helped co-creating this world, this system. And he's totally saying that, okay, there's so many rooms there. And we think about all the galaxies and planets that are there, and the type of life they can support. It's in our meeting there. One word that came with that was faith. I experienced a feeling of faith, because if I have Jesus as my guide, and Jesus is helping God co-creating these things, being the governor of this place, with all these opportunities, all these planets there, so that means that eventually I'll also have a meaningful employment, right? I will be helping God in His creation in different parts of the universe. And it's definitely related to what Jesus is saying here. Say, there's so many rooms, I'm preparing a place for you. So how come Jesus is preparing a place for us? By giving us examples, by giving us how to get closer to God, get closer to good feelings. We'll eventually evolve, and eventually, yes, be part of the co-creation with God. So we'll be governors of our own city, like maybe a mayor of here or governor of there, eventually prime minister. That's something that it could provoke us this feeling of faith. Like, I have faith in the future. I have faith in my evolution. I have faith that I won't be bored when I evolve and there will be nothing to do, and I'll be like with angels and playing good music. No, there will be tons of work to do, so full employment in the spiritual world. That's the message there. But then there's still so many questions to answer. So many questions, specifically about the universe. Let's see how ignorant we are. Ignorant in the sense that we don't have the knowledge. So with this idea of the Big Bang, so if you have this amount of energy concentrated, expanded, eventually that energy will dissipate away, and the universe was believed to eventually stop expanding. And then comes some physicists and they say, yeah, you know what? They discovered in 1998 that, you know what, the universe is still expanding at accelerated rates. So, the people like, so what's going on? What's happening? That's something that we don't understand. They won the Nobel Prize, by the way. Because there's so a major discovery, and it was basically saying like, we know nothing. Let's be humble about that. And humbleness is another key word for our reflections in the end. It turns out that roughly 68% of the universe is dark energy. Dark matter makes about 27%. So everything we know and measure, all those galaxies, everything that we know, it can only account for 5% of the universe. 5%. Oh, Renzo, what is dark energy, dark matter? It doesn't matter. Because scientists who don't know, they have to come up with this theory, like there must be some type of energy that we don't understand. It's not gravity, it's not electromagnetic, it's not something that we know, but they must be there to explain the observations of the universe. Or the dark matter, so there is this gravitational pull going there, so why is it explained? We don't know, we cannot measure, call it dark matter. But it's clear that they know what they don't know. So what is that? There are so many unknowns. No, I won't go that way. So the unknowns are there. And everything that science will know, it only accounts for 5%. So if you have someone that is very skeptical about God and life and all these things, and can only imagine we are here because of our DNA and biology make us happen, and we die, nothing happen. It is going to be very sad to realize that if you only think about this body, this organic matter, and it's going to die and decompose, it plays a very, very minor role in the universe as a whole. So, sticking to materialism and thinking about these type of numbers we're talking about, it'll bring some feelings to someone who is very stick to the matter. That's like, oh, you know what? What's the point then? Right? What's the point? If there's only this, what is the point? What is my role in the universe? And you still have thoughts that, like, being selfish or things that the world is revolving around us. But if that's only this experience that we're having, it will be very sad because it will mean nothing to the universe as a whole. But, and there's a big but, and everything in English, like if you have one long sentence and comes but, forget about everything before, right? So let's forget about materialism, because there is a big but that Spiritism brought us, is that our life is not only this, right? So we are immortal spirits. And that makes a big, big, big difference into how we see these experiences under this universe. Okay? All right. So we'll talk about time, and let's talk about space. So many of us probably travel around the world, right? So we know this planet really well. And we studied about it very, very well. So we know its geology, its geography, we know its population. There are so many things that we can talk about the Earth, because that's where we live, that's where we currently live, right? And with the advancement of science, we can definitely understand a little bit more about what's going on here. And then, we just talked about how huge is the universe and how Earth is like one pale blue dot here, right? It was just one blip in that whole space. But it's a very important one, and why? Welcome. It's because we are here now. We're having this experience here now, right? We know that the universe is huge. We just saw that. The time, it's been like 13 plus billion years of existence of this universe as we know. But we have a special place in our hearts to this planet because we're living here. Can someone guess when Earth was formed? Except the geologists in the room. That I know my wife is a geologist.
Almost 5 billion years ago.
Yeah, almost there. So the formation of Earth, it's now, so the science believe it's 4.54 billion years ago, and I'm also one of the believers because I've seen some measurements, I've seen some of the work they've done. And yeah, so 4.54 billion years ago, Earth was formed, right? And in that time, all the planets in the solar system was also like in the making. So universe 13, Earth 4.5 billion years. So a lot happened before our planet was formed, right? We had like more than 10 billion years or so of stuff happening around the universe until this place came to be. Okay? Yeah, and we love it. It's our home. We like it very much. When will the world end? Is this planet ever going to be destroyed?
Probably.
Yes.
How?
I think the sun will be growing so big that
Yep.
just
Exactly. So the destruction is coming, but don't get alarmed, right? Don't panic, especially because we're mortal spirits, and there's a reason to not panic. So this Earth, as we know, and if we're talking about in a very materialistic perspective, you're attached to it, but you know what? It's not going to survive more than 7 billion years from today. And why is that? Because the sun is going to start consuming helium, like now it's consuming hydrogen, but eventually it's going to expand, and Earth is going to be part of it. So the sun is going to expand up to Mars. So destruction of Earth, probably, or at least, will not be there after 7 billion years from today. Okay, so the sun will grow, and even before that, the oceans will evaporate. So life, as we know it, will not be there. Okay? So again, if we are very attached to the matter, and I think about the materialistic perspective, oh, this is my home. Oh, I see this. My heart will start beating faster because you know what? Our planet won't be here. But if you're looking to things from the right side of things, right? So from the immortal spirit perspective, it is totally okay. Earth will serve its purpose, and we are here. We're also going to serve our purpose. But then, so when life appeared on Earth, around 4.28 billion years ago, so right after the oceans formed, then we have the first forms of life. Like cyanobacteria, small unicellular organisms. We can find fossils with 3.5 billion years old. And then eventually these organisms, they start photosynthesis, they put oxygen to the atmosphere. Life in bigger forms was supported in the oceans. Eventually one of these creatures start exploring the land. And then this talk is not about how life evolved, but it's part of the context because we tend to think we are the only forms of life in the universe. We tend to think we're very special in the scheme of things. We tend to think that we are the smartest thing ever. We are here, and that's a gift of God, and it is. But God is only choosing us to be part of this creation. So when we put those 3 deep breaths we took in the first minute of the talk into perspective of the universe, the planet, and now into the perspective of life, we're going to see again it's just a blip. But it's more than that, right? So the modern Homo sapiens, that is like people who are roughly like we are now, first walked on Earth 50,000 years ago. That's some discussion, a little bit more, like 200,000 years or so. We're not going into that much, but the Earth is 4-point-something billion years, and humans, as we know, came yesterday, or 2 minutes ago. How many people have lived, humans have lived on Earth until today? 7 billion now. as of today. So today you have 7 billion years, but how many people in total? If you count everyone who lived on Earth. It's very, very hard exercise to make, but there is one institute, like Population Reference Bureau, that does this type of estimates.
Since that time?
Since that time, yeah. So how many humans? Give me a guess.
100 trillion.
100 trillion.
Yeah.
Wow. This talk is all about billions, so no. No, yeah, a little bit less.
Okay.
A little bit less. But you know what? It's quite a lot.
Okay.
It is still a lot. So since then, more than 108 billion members of our species have lived on Earth. Right? And we are on one of them. And if we die and everything's gone,
Probably,
we are just...
Probably we're more than one of them.
More than one of them, yeah. We are one of them now. We are not one of them today. But if we die, and that's it. If we don't believe this biological life we have, it's everything there is. We die, that's it. So we're just a blip in the total population of the human history, which is only a blip of the life on Earth. And Earth is just a blip in the galaxy, in our Milky Way, which is just a blip in the whole universe, right? So if we have these type of thoughts that, and that's a good way to talk when people are skeptic about like God and life and their spiritual, the spiritual part of their being. If you want to believe that it's just it, it's just this matter, this body, it doesn't make sense. It's going to make us feel horrible. It's going to make us feel like I'm nothing. How is my self-esteem? So it doesn't matter what I do. I'm just a small part of it. I'm just like a bacteria who grew and multiplied and then died and then that's it. But the paradox is, those feeling the same way, those feeling this way, are the same ones trying to explain us or trying to argue with us that, oh, there's no God, we started with the Big Bang, right? And they completely ignore the fact that even that science now understands the Big Bang as the beginning of our observable universe, it doesn't explain everything. And then comes the Spiritism and tell us, hey, you know what? There's a whole new part of your life that it's been there with you since the beginning. There's a whole new part of your life that will exist after you die, like you disincarnate. And that's what brings us comfort. Because that's what will heal us from these potential feelings of, I don't belong here, I'm nothing, I'm worth nothing. And that's not true. Because, yes, we are just one human now in 7 billions, right? That's totally true. And yes, we just started on Earth yesterday, like 15,000 years ago as humans. But the message that comes across from these teachings, and also from Jesus when he says, like, there are many rooms in my Father's house, is that there's so many other things that will reach as immortal spirits. Some things that we, as in this body, he will never reach. Sometimes even hard to have a grasp on it. How to position myself in all those billions that we've been talking about. Right? And then that's when we come for the raindrops, right? The title was like Time, Space, Raindrops, and Our Feelings. So we talk about time, we talk about space. Chapter number 5 of Genesis, one of the analogies Galileo does when explaining time. So time is just like raindrops falling from the cloud going to the ocean, and then we can measure this event. So time is something that, for us, measuring has a start, an end, but the truth is that so much more behind us in the clouds, and so much more ahead of us in the ocean, that we have very little intelligent. We have no sense for it, that's for sure. But even when we try to go through thoughts and try to get a grasp on this idea, it gets a bit confusing, right? So how come, what was time before the Big Bang? But God was there, right? At the beginning. So when God is eternal, what does that mean? And what does that mean when I know now that I was created by God, I am its creation, and I am an immortal spirit. My body will die. Every time I incarnate, I will use the matter to do some good, to have experience and progress. But as immortal spirits, there's no way to see the time ahead, right? But feeling it that way, it's very comforting, and it's one of the big comforts that Spiritans bring us. It's knowing that life goes on, and now that if we imagine we are raindrops and now going to the ocean, do I feel isolated, or do I feel part of a community? Or do I feel lonely, or with my with low self-esteem because I'm just a raindrop? Or do I realize I'm making up an ocean? We only will have a full grasp on so let me rephrase it. By knowing that we are immortal spirits, by feeling ourselves are immortal spirits, it's the only way to put us in context to all those billions we talked about. It's the only way to take that knowledge that we have now from science, although incomplete, and position ourselves into this universe and make a good meaning out of it. So if I am an immortal spirit, when I come to know, by saying if I am, like we are, but putting our position as immortal spirits, knowing that we have so many galaxies, 107 billion galaxies in the universe that we can observe, how do I feel about it? Let me not rush exactly, and list three different feelings that we may sense. And it's not that we want to nudge you towards these feelings, right? Because every one of us could feel something different, and eventually could feel even those, because we are still very materialistic in nature, right? We're still progressing, so there are still things in us that attach us to the matter. So when I see that Earth is going to be destroyed, like, who do I feel about it? Is it like, how do I feel about it? So as immortal spirits, we'll have windows to tap into good feelings when you come to know about the truth of the universe. First of all, a sense of belonging. Not first of all, like there's no orders here, but one of them. Sense of belonging. Do I belong here? We took 3 deep breaths, and at the beginning, some of you were not here. And the reason why, because we want us, after going through all those billions that we talk about, everything was set for us to have those breaths that time. We're breathing now. Everything was set. So the oxygen is there. The Earth is the right place. The galaxy is doing all right. Not swallowed by a black hole or anything. So everything is set in place for us to have these breaths. Everything is set for us to have the experience we're having. Otherwise we wouldn't. That's as simple as that, right? We're here because everything it's meant to be according to the divine laws. So that means also that we're here for a purpose. We're not here for nothing. There is the universe was it's hard to say that, but it was kind of tailored for us for in this moment. So that brings us a big sense of belonging. Yeah, I should be here and I'm here. right? It's as opposed to, you know what, I'm just tiny bit, like what happens? Yeah, 7 billion years Earth will be destroyed, like, so I don't care about it. Let's pollute our atmosphere, I don't care. And what about humbleness? Doesn't it bring us, first is awe, right? Okay, billion years, billion galaxies, like, awe. Who knew about it? Who knew about these numbers? Like, we would talk about the age of the universe, age of galaxies in the universe. Sometimes we might hear about it, right? It's a lot, but how much is a lot? But more than knowing how much is a lot, and as we read at the beginning, instead of inquiring like how God is or how it created things, instead of inquiring that, how can we feel God in our lives now and be part of the universe, to belong to it, and be extremely humble to say, hey, first of all, I don't know everything, period. And the second part is, wow, how God is great, right? Creating this universe that we are. So humbleness is another thing that, as immortal spirits, will have a better sense, or will promote us. Understanding us as immortal spirit will promote this sense of humbleness in us. Second thing is, third thing is gratitude. Oh wow, thanks a lot, because we have our purpose here, and we have our goals to achieve. We have lots of self-improvement to do. We are certainly in the path of happiness if we abide to God's law. And by having this, thank you. Right? Thank you for creating me. Having this gratitude was not going to be something that is very passive. It's not a passive feeling that, yes, thank you, but then I will do nothing to contribute. Right? So, yeah, thank you. So when so now raindrop falling from the clouds going to the ocean, but hey, the ocean is quite important. So hey, we have this many people living, 7 billion now, and I'm only one of them. But we are very important to this world, because every good action we do is going to create a positive effect into our surroundings, into our community. And by understanding us as beings populating Earth, and understanding the Earth is just a tiny bit of thing of the universe, wouldn't that feel like we all belong together? So what is the point? Segregating people based on choices, gender, countries, color of the skin. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, because we're in the same boat. We're in the same boat. But if I don't know about it, and I think my life is the most important thing ever, if I think that this body, this life is what actually it's all that is, so why would I bother helping my neighbor? Why would I bother helping someone else? So this sense of fraternity it breaks down if you are not putting things in this bigger context, right? And like I already said before, that's another feeling that we can have as immortal spirits, like faith. But faith in what? Faith in what? Faith that life goes on. Faith that everything was set for us to be here today. Everything was prepared for us to have this experience. We chose to be here. And the ability to choose, that's very important. Faith that there will be always work to do in this universe. Right? 7 billion years from now, Earth does not exist. What will happen to me? What will I be doing? 7 billion years from now, will I be here? Will you be here? Yes or no?
No.
As immortal spirits?
There's a lot of houses, rooms in God's house,
Yeah.
so we'll be somewhere. Not
We'll be somewhere. It could be here, right? It doesn't mean that we don't have ocean, there's no life. There are planets that we know that they cannot support life, carbon-based life that we have, but there are spirits there. And other forms of life. But 7 billion years from now, I guess I should emphasize this. The time scale. And sometimes I worry about, I get anxious about tomorrow or the day after, right? And that brings me bad feelings, bad thoughts, and it shouldn't. Sometimes I think that we might think that, oh, what if I die tomorrow, right? And what if? What if? So putting us in this context of time, space, understanding us as raindrops, and tap into our feelings when we get to know it. And I really hope that over these 50 minutes or so, we had a chance to go beyond the knowledge. We had a chance to go beyond the facts of the universe. We have a chance to go beyond the hard numbers, the billions, almost trillions, the numbers that we got, the age of the universe as we know, the number of galaxies. That's just to set up the context. And I hope you got it. I hope you understood it. Because the main focus, and I wouldn't call it homework, but something that is very good to do, it's to tap into the feelings that we're having now. And eventually, if we see that it's something that is not exactly aligned with the idea of being an immortal spirit, we could work to shift, to work on our virtues we gotta develop over this life. And then eventually, in these existence or in other lives, we'll have a ever-growing understanding of how we belong and how humble we should be and how grateful for having this chance. How we could tap into the fraternity of being part of this together, and the faith we have in God. So with that, I want to open the floor if someone wants to just add or ask questions or make some comments before we have the kids preparing, because they always prepare something for us here, right? So any comments, any questions? Was it something not very, very clear?
About the faith, I think the faith is very deeply, right? Because so some people think they have to be faith by themselves, right? Whatever they can do, faith in mind, but by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, this is very deep, definition.
Yep.
Because in the practical, in the life, so I think I'd like to know about what you think about faith. So because for me, we have people, they don't have faith. So it's about the life. Life is not easy, right? Everybody knows.
Mm-hmm.
But they have to put the faith in somebody or in something because it's not easy, right?
Yeah. And what we should put this faith on? Right? We as immortal spirits, what we should put the faith on? Yeah.
Yeah, and then for here, what do you mean the faith?
Yeah.
I need to understand a little bit
Yeah.
What you say about the faith. Faith in who and what?
Okay, so let's go back to the scientists first then. Because when you talk about the Big Bang started the universe there. That was one of the first things that we talk about at the beginning. So how the universe was created, and the science would say, oh, there was the Big Bang. there's not enough data there there is enough data to say the Big Bang, but no one knows what happened before. So you have to have faith. The scientists must have faith that that is true. So the universe started with the Big Bang. We have faith in a sense that let me go back to the eternity of God. God has been there since the beginning and will be there until the end. And having faith that things are happening according to His designations. Have faith that I'm a big part of it. I'm actively contributing to His creation. And it's not very different than the faith that people will have in a different context. What is setting us apart is that this faith comes as a feeling and not as only the understanding. So I have faith that the universe started with the Big Bang. Like thinking about the scientists, let's say. They go very rational about it, right? What do they feel about it? No, nothing. Like it's just materialistic perspective. But when we're talking about faith here, it goes beyond the knowledge. It gotta be part of the feelings that we have, right? So it's very personal how we're gonna experience this. It's very personal. But by having faith, it's saying, like, one of the examples could be, I do belong there. I do belong here. I'm supposed to be here, right? It's having faith that God, with this, with His, wouldn't say planning. There is a word for that, providencia. With His planning through all of us, I have big faith that I'm going the right way, or I have big faith that life will go on. I have a big faith that things, I'll be a big part of it. I'll make up an ocean of good things to come. It goes in that sense, right?
I liked your analogy with the raindrops in the ocean, because Mother Teresa, she once said, "What I do," she's done a lot. But she said, "What I do is just one little tiny drop in the ocean, and that the ocean would be smaller without that
Without
drop."
it.
Right? So the sense of belonging is I'm only one drop, but I'm part of the whole. The humbleness is I'm just one small little drop. The gratitude that comes when we feel that we're part of something huge, part of something great, and the fraternity that we're part of the whole ocean. We're all in this together, like you said, right? And the faith, like God's providence that you talked about, right? All the experiences that we had until today to bring us here, there's no reason why those experiences and opportunities would stop today.
Yep.
They're coming in the future. So the faith that God is looking after us is eternal.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah, no, thank you for your contribution. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, we have still more 2 minutes for someone else.
Okay, I'd like to tell. I like when you introduced about the faith, and for me it's impressive how science can explain a lot of things and can give us a lot of things to think about. But when you think about how would be the odds to have like the perfect planet we have without the lines, without the like harmony that we have, like all the balance. That's right now we're messing up a little bit, but before us it was really balanced, and that's amazing. And there's something that the science couldn't explain yet. Like they could trace out like the evolution of the species, but they never could explain how something turned to life. How is the what is this like a key that turns something in life? How turns out that one day we doesn't exist, the next day we have life, and one day we suddenly die? How they cannot explain this, and through the experience they try to explain a little bit, but as soon as because it's not yet part of what we can understand deeply, because we miss some sense to understand, it's okay. But when you think about those things, it's, hey, this is like, just think about the complexity of our bodies. That's huge complex. Like, if you want to be like a doctor, you're just going to try to understand all the chemicals that go inside our body, all like the muscles, all the interaction between everything, things that you eat, you don't eat, the feelings that you have that might have impact as well. So it's a huge complex system. Would be crazy if this would be like just come out of the universe, that somehow these things come like that. And the Spiritist book as well tells us about, like, okay, we are not able yet to understand God, but if you want to feel a little bit how would be God, just look all the things that God had produced. So if God create our body as perfect as they are, and create all the nature, all this balance, there should be
one of the accepted theories for how life was created. Scientists tried to simulate the conditions of Earth like 4 billion years ago, and taking inorganic compounds, they couldn't make life. And now we think that science thinks that life came in a meteor from another planet, but then they don't answer the question. The question is still was formed there. It has to be a beginning. So we have a couple of minutes. I want to do an exercise. I'm going to read our harmonization reading again. And let's see how we can relate to everything we said. Is that okay? And then, Vitor, if you could let children know that we'll be ready soon. Thank you. It's, again, text from Living Spring in God's Presence. Let's hear these words again. For Jesus, the existence of God is no reason for quarrels or altercations. He does not ask about the nature of the Eternal One. He does not ask where he lives. He does not see him as being the obscure and impersonal cause of the universe. He simply calls him our Father. In moments of work and prayer, joy and suffering, he looks to the Supreme Lord in the position of a loving and trusting Son. The Master sets the standard for the attitude we should have in God's presence. There is no pointless research. There is no urgent questioning. There is no inappropriate demanding. There is no irreverent defining. Whenever you pray, go into the secret chamber of your conscience and entrust yourself to God as our Heavenly Father. Be sincere and faithful. In our condition as needy children, let us give ourselves faithfully to Him. Do not ask if God is a generating focal point of worlds or if He is a force that radiates life. We do not yet have the intelligence capable of reflecting His grandeur, but we do have hearts that can sense His love. Therefore, let us seek our Father above all else, and God our Father will hear us. And that's a great definition of faith. And I hope this will be somewhat helpful for all of us. It's certainly been helpful to me.
Can I share a story?
Of course.
I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I really love this story. Someone asked Einstein if why he believes in God, since he's like a scientist person, and he answered, "Well, I believe in God because of the behavior of the water." What? The behavior of water? Yes. Because the water is the only substance in Earth that have a different behavior when you go like under 0 degrees Celsius. And so I don't know if you know, but the water has
It expands when freeze.
Yeah, so there's a different behavior in comparison to other things, and this different behavior makes the life be still living even in a frozen conditions in the whole Earth. So we have like ice age in our like Earth history. The life could keep like living because of the behavior of the water.
Yeah.
And the answer, that's the reason.
All right, you have the children.
Sorry, I have the little duck
Oh,
behind
please.
me.
Go ahead.
You good? Hey. So, since it's October, what's the new virtue of this month? Sophie, what's the new virtue of the month?
Thanksgiving.
It's definitely connected, yes. So this whole month we're talking about gratitude. This whole month we're talking about gratitude. We're actually gonna hang this poster on the wall, and we would love if the adults would like to contribute as well. So we'll leave some of those leaves there, and we would love if the adults could also write something that they're thankful for and participate in the kids' activity as well. Also for Sophie and Lucas, we are sending home a fun work, not homework, but fun work. We are sending a funnel scavenger hunt. So if the parents can help, it would be awesome. So we have a list of 50 items that they are thankful for, like a collar, a food, and if the parents can help with the scavenger hunt, it would be awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna do our final prayer too.
Can I play on your phone?
You are being
Worship us.
We're gonna have the pass.
Okay.